Hey, Brandon, here we are again. It's another fun week at Baseball Biz. We're listening to Nate Andrews from Full Count Chaos. I love that name. Podcaster who's talking all about the Baltimore Orioles. And he's obviously a big fan as well as a podcaster. I certainly recommend, if you guys haven't been listening to him, to check him out. That's Full Count Chaos. You can find him on pretty much any podcast directory.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear you interview him finally, because there's one thing that he's not short on is excitement.
Amen, brother. So let's get started with that interview with Nate Andrews right now. Welcome to Baseball Biz. I'm Mark Carpet, your host, and with me today is Nate Andrews. Nate, if you haven't heard before, if you haven't been a fan of the Cardinals, if you haven't been a fan of the Baltimore Orioles, you're missing out, because this is a team that's got a lot of verve to it. And Nate, tell us a little bit about your podcast and what you're doing with the Orioles.
Yeah, first off, appreciate you having me on, doing a podcast about the Orioles. Basically, I guess right now I'm like a shoulder for the fans to cry on because of what the Orioles are going through. I don't take myself too seriously with the show. We have fun. I think a couple weeks ago, 20 minutes of emails of people having the biggest hangovers of opening day.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? We kind of just, it's just basically like friends getting together. We just chatting about some baseball, and it's all about the Orioles. And usually when I tell people I host a podcast about the Orioles, their first reaction is, "Ooh, did you choose to do that?" Yes. Yeah, I chose to do that. And, so yeah, it's been fun, I guess. I try to use the word fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's your team, brother, through thick and thin. Yeah. And sometimes it's a little thinner than any of us would like, but
yeah, right. If you're trying to quit, you go right back to smoking, right back to drinking. It's been rough.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell me about the naming of your podcast, because I love it.
Full Count Chaos. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I just, you try to think of words to play with baseball. And then when the first word that came to mind when I'm thinking Orioles was chaos, just the chaotic mess that the fans have been dealing with being an Orioles fan. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but yeah, it just came to me. And I think even my wife was sitting in the room, and we both said it out loud, and we were like, yeah, that sounds great. So I just ran with it.
I love it.
And here we are.
Well, you were talking about getting the early start. I know it was a little tough start this year. Last year, you started out with 3 wins at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, we swept the Red Sox. I think I spoke about the last episode where it should be this way no matter what kind of team you have, but the first series of any season, it shouldn't really be the blueprint of, oh, okay, so this is how they're going to play it this year.
No.
So they swept the Red Sox last year, and some fans I spoke to, they're like, all right, well, I'm saving up money for October baseball. It's like, wait a minute.
Oh, geez.
Slow down. It's okay. But yeah, so this season they got swept. So I don't know if I'm like, okay, maybe that's a sign they'll do well now. But
I was talking to Brandon the other day. So, what that means for the Orioles. He says, it's going to flip. It's going to be completely different this year. This year, they're going to kill it, man. They're going to come in.
I appreciate that. I don't know. It's going to be a different team in May and June. And I think the fans were just trying to get through April, which we're coming to the end. And then in May and June, there might be some young guys coming up. But we've heard that before, past year or two, and we're still here.
Well, I do want to talk about that in a minute. But to let folks get kind of a feel for what's going on, we've been talking about a lot of the other teams in the AL East. And the Orioles have had some challenges. But the thing of it is, the passion of the fans is huge. It is strong. Yeah. And I think that most of the rest of the audience are going to realize when you're watching that game, there's a strong team there. And if you know nothing else about the Orioles, you're probably going to know these names. You're probably going to know Cedric Mullins. You're probably going to know Ryan Mountcastle. You're probably going to know Trey Mancini. Yeah. Now, there's a lot more depth, but the ones that actually got the most press are them and maybe Santander. But there's a lot more to your team than that. Can you give us a little bit more about the roster?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, the pitching was a problem last year. We had some young guys come up. It's the future. Kind of reminds me of the 2011 guys like Zach Britton, Brian Mattis, Chris Tillman. They were supposed to be the guys to come up in 2011, and then they just shit the bed. It kind of reminded me of last year with the young guys that were coming up who were pitching. They were supposed to be the future, and they shit the bed. But this year, with the roster, like you said, Mountcastle, Trey Mancini, Cedric Mullins. We also have, I don't know if you've heard the name Adley Rutschman before. He was the Orioles' first pick a few years ago, and apparently scouts are talking about this guy was ready for the majors when he was 11 years old. So, apparently Oriole fans were thinking that he's coming on the team, and once he comes on, here comes the trophy. He's got a lot of pressure. I feel so bad for him.
Jeez.
So Adley, he's the number one prospect right now. And again, yeah, we when you name those guys in the offense, it's kind of funny when you say, hey, continue on with the depth. It kind of stops right there.
Yeah.
Pertaining to the offense. I mean, Austin Hayes is a young kid who's on the team, who's flashy, he's fast. He just hit a home run the other night. There's a guy, Mateo, who's shortstop for the Orioles right now. If he hits a little dribbler back to the pitcher, he's already on third base by the time the pitcher picks up the ball. He's fun to watch. I mean, anytime you have someone that fast, I think he's like the second or third fastest runner in the league right now. Pertaining to pitching, we do have some young guys. There's a guy like, his name's Bautista. Guy's like huge. He's like 6'6", 200 pounds. The Rays released him in 2016, and then or 2015, and the Orioles are like, all right, we'll take him. Oh my God, the guy's just a machine. He's throwing 99, 100. He's got a filthy slider. So the pitching is what has been a problem with the Orioles for many years. And we're starting to finally see these young guys come up for the pitching that they're going to be fun to watch, really fun to watch. And I don't know, Grayson Rodriguez, he's like, top 5 prospect in baseball. We're going to be seeing him this year. Basically the pitching. You have good pitching, you're going to be all right. The offense is still, the Orioles right now have the most strikeouts in the entire league. So, there's light at the end of the tunnel. But if you're gonna Cedric Mullins, he's in the 30-30 class from last year.
Oh yeah.
And then Ryan Mountcastle, that kid's gonna be an absolute monster with the home runs. People have him, quote unquote experts have him hitting about 40 to 45 this year.
Wow.
But with Adley Rutschman, DL Hall is the young guy pitcher coming up, Grayson Rodriguez, it's gonna be a different team by the end of the season. I think it's gonna be fun.
When I looked at you guys too, one name that popped up, I said earlier, was Mountcastle. I was thinking, my gosh, I was watching that Rookie of the Year last year, and I saw him up there and 2 Rays guys. And I really thought he had as strong a chance as anybody up there, because we had a guy who'd barely been in, just had been a prospect, halfway through the season. And then we had another guy who seemed like he'd been there almost for 2 years. And then there was Ryan. And I was like, okay, if I was a Baltimore fan right now, I would be.
Yeah, it was upsetting to see that. I mean, you always think these kind of things are popularity contests, but that we were upset about that. That felt like he got robbed. And I know, of course, when you interview the players about that, they go, "Oh no, I'm just happy that I even got mentioned." When he's like, "What the hell?" Hey, wait, I cussing. How about? I meant to ask you before we started if I slip up.
Oh, just presume there's 2 little young cousins in the room.
All right, that's good, because I don't have kids either. When I'm around my friends with kids, all of a sudden, like a couple minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I just dropped like 9 F-bombs right there.
We didn't. You did, but we do PG and mostly every now and then.
All right, good to know, because I started getting fired up about Ryan Mountcastle. I could feel the F-bombs starting to rise up, and I'm like, oh boy, hold back.
That's.
But yeah, he that's why I'm glad that he was in that conversation last season, because I think he's a name that you're gonna obviously see in the future, and he's going to be a big part of the future with the Orioles. And he's going to be hitting average 35, 40, 45 home runs a season. So he'll be fun to watch.
I mean, as an outsider, I look there and I think they've got a lot of the elements already. The thing of it is, just like anybody who's in the AL East or even the NL West or AL West, so those are such tough divisions. You can have a great team, and it can still be just hard getting out through there. And I'm looking at you guys and thinking, I expect more. I really do of the Orioles. I expect more, and I don't know where to look. Do I look to who? Mike Elias? Do I look to Brandon Hyde? Do I look to Angelos? Where do I look?
I understand. Yeah, trust me. What you're saying right now is the conversations that Oriole fans have all the time. I know Mike Elias. I mean, I can't. He's a guy that his name shouldn't be in conversations of, is it his fault? You know what I mean? I mean, I know there's a lot of fans, Oriole fans who are, when Mike Elias came in to do the rebuild, they, for some reason, thought that they should have won a World Series by the third year of the rebuild. So those people you talk to, yeah, of course, it's Elias's fault, but I don't know, man. It's like when this rebuild, and I hate saying that word, rebuild. I promised on my podcast to the listeners I wouldn't use rebuild and I wouldn't use the word patience. So even when I say rebuild, I'm gonna have to put $1 in the curse jar. But it's like Mike Elias, it's like giving him keys to a Toyota Camry and asking him to win the NASCAR.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like where do you look? I guess the first place you look is the players. I mean, the talent that they throw out there is. Let's be real. I mean, should they have lost? Would they lose 47 last season? I think, pretty sure that's what it was. No, there's talent on there that I thought they should have at least won 60 to 55 to 60 wins. So I don't know if it's just because when you're in a clubhouse and when you start winning and you've played together, I just feel that with so many names and players. I don't know. I think sometimes that has a big effect on things, on winning games, losing games, and how close you are and how well you know the guys in the clubhouse and whether you feel like a real family. I know that may sound cheesy, but I truly do feel that has a lot to do with winning, and I think that's what's happening. I think the players, let's be real, they know what the hell's going on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And sometimes that, you just don't get that mojo. You don't get that umph with the core. And I think it can affect things, and it's tough to get on a roll. But
well, like I said, I anticipate greater things for you guys this year. I really do. I think there's a lot of components that are there and making them gel. I also know, being a Rays fan, what it's like to have to work with a small payroll and saying
you guys are amazing. I don't know how you do it. I mean. The pitchers that you guys draft are just, incredible. It's ridiculous.
There's some good coaching, there's some good scouting, and a lot of it is just, you're talking about it takes a while to nurture that talent. And then you bring up, or you get somebody in a trade like Tyler Glass now. And daggone it, what looks like a fantastic pitcher. And suddenly, I mean, you're looking at John Means, you're looking at somebody with Tommy Johns, you say, damn, this guy's going to be gone for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And they're I won't say they're necessarily the face of the team, but they are one of the biggest hopes, somebody we instill a lot of our faith in for the success of the team. And with John stepping down, I mean, I guess Zimmerman's out there anyway, but is he going to be doing more of that?
Yeah, Bruce Zimmerman right now. I mean, he's actually he's doing real well. He's one of the names last year that he didn't do too well. And then everybody was concerned, but this year, he's doing great. He's fun to watch, and he's stepping up. But once John Means went down, boy, that's just a big kick in the groin. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, who's going to get us our one win a week? Yeah. So, like I said, like there's guys, and I don't expect people who aren't familiar with the Orioles to know these names, but Grayson Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish, DL Hall. These are all young guys who are just pacing back and forth down to like AAA, AA, just, getting ready to come up. So when John Means went down, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, there's help on the way, and it's right around the corner. And when they come up, because right now they're putting on a show down in the minors, and it's amazing to see their highlights. But the John Means going down, that's just part of sports. Yeah. Part of being a player, part of being a fan.
Well, and you brought up, I mean, about growing it from the farm system too. And that's what's happening here. You're talking about Kyle Bradish, because I guess he's somebody, he hasn't actually been up to the show yet, has he? I mean,
no, he hasn't. No. But they're flirting with his name to come up. I don't know. It's Michael. One thing, I love Mike Elias. I do. I'm a fan of his. I'm not one of the guys who feels, he's just trying to get, first round draft picks. That's all he's doing. He doesn't have a plan. He's got a plan, but he is moving really slow with bringing guys up. Like I think Detroit, I saw the other day, is it Torkelson? I think they brought up he's a young guy, and it's like, wait a minute, didn't he just get drafted like a year or two ago or something? And he's already hitting home runs, and people see that and they're like, see, Mike Elias, blah, 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 blah. But, he's got his reasons. But yeah, he's moving very slowly with bringing these young guys up. And I think that frustrates a lot of Oriole fans. But when they're up, Mike Elias wants to make sure, we're not just bringing them up just so the fans are happy. We're going to bring him up because he's 100% ready to go. So yeah, Kyle Bradish, we are probably going to see him for sure, especially with John Means getting hurt and the other rotation struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just get run down a list for the folks. Jordan Lyles, we said Bruce Zimmerman, Tyler Wells, Spenser Watkins, and oh my gosh, man. But
Spenser Watkins had a good had a good outing last time. I mean, look. These guys, half these guys on this team know that they're not going to be the future, and that's why I go back to saying about having that winning momentum in the clubhouse. I mean, when you're playing for a team and you're pretty much realizing you're just keeping the seat warm, till mid-year. I mean, I'm sitting here acting like I know what I'm saying, like I've been there, but I'm just saying that's got to be part of it. But yeah, Spenser Watkins. He apparently, if I'm probably saying this wrong, but I think he was like he had a teacher job like 2 years ago. He's like a substitute teacher. And then the Orioles needed help, and they called him, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow afternoon?" He's like, "I'm teaching algebra. Why? What's up?" And they're like, "All right, come on and pitch." So these are the kind of pitchers that the Orioles have in their organization right now who are starting. So
that's like a Netflix movie.
It's definitely April baseball right now, man.
Yeah. Well, that's what you got to remember. But at the same time, it's like 16 games already in cheese and crackers. And if you're ever feeling bad, all you got to do is look over to Cincinnati and say, "Yeah."
Oh man, what did the owner? Didn't the owner get involved, like arguing with the fans about like, where do you want me to move the team or something? Something just childish. I saw he said the other day, and I'm like, wow. And they lost, I think, like 11 in a row. Aren't they like? What's the record now? I think, it's bad. It
is bad there. Yeah, he was stupid enough. He was lured into it a little bit, and he said, "Yeah, what do you want me to do? You want me to move this? Where, And it's like, okay, moron. Have you been taking lessons from Jim Crane out there at the Astros on how to work with the press and such? You look at these guys and say, "Good Lord, somebody lets you open up a wallet and write a paycheck for people?"
Oh man, I know. It just makes a shit. But yeah, I feel bad for oh God, why can't I think of his name on the Reds? The big what's his name? Good guy.
I'm with you there as far as drawing a blank.
Oh my God, what's his name? He's the big player. He's the only darn player that people even talk about on the Reds. Anyway, I kind of feel bad for him. But yeah, you're right. Anytime the Orioles are having a bad day or bad week, I kind of go over to the Cincinnati Reds news and see what's going on over there.
Oh, well, I know we just have you for a little while, so I want to talk about a little celebration too that you.
Oh, no, we got a little bit of time. We're good. Yeah.
Well, good. Let's take a look at the celebration of what's happening with Camden Yard, man. Well, it's been 30 years, and it looks fresh. It looks like one of the newest ballparks to me every time I see across all the ones out there. It's like, damn, I haven't been there. I want to go there. I've been to ballpark. Yeah, I haven't made it there yet.
The rumor is that, when new ballparks are being made, they look at the blueprint of where'd you go? You still here with me? All right, I'm here. I got you. They look at the blueprint of Camden Yards and they just kind of work with that as their guideline. But yeah, beautiful park. Love it. I talk to people all over the country who are not Oriole fans, but every chance they get, they visit Camden Yards when their team is playing. So yeah, it's nice. Love the stadium.
Well, was it surprising when they decided to make a move and cut out 1,000 seats and move the wall back a bit in Camden?
I'm sure you could hear the jokes of, people going, wait a minute, we're losing 1,000 seats, and people being like, those 1,000 seats aren't even filled. You don't even fill 1,000 seats during your games. But yeah, no, that's one of my favorite moves so far that Mike Elias did. And here's why. You talking about obviously pushing the wall back, the left field, right? Is what you were talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
Here's why I think it's a fantastic move is because the Camden Yards, it's a little league ballpark. I mean, it's been called that ever since it's been built. It is, players around the league, they love when they come to Camden Yards. They always make jokes. Yeah, I want to fluff up my my home runs and RBI numbers going to Camden Yards. And there's always a discussion about, signing big name pitchers. The Orioles are always struggling of signing these big name pitchers. And, you'd hear conversations and rumors of pitchers being like, I don't want to go pitch in that little league stadium and get my numbers jacked up. And it was always an issue. And I always used to talk about that. I mean, some people would say, oh, I love the stadium, don't do anything. But I always used to be like, man, they got to build the wall high or something.
Yeah.
So when Mike Elias pushed that wall back, he said one of the things when he came in was, we got to sign some big pitchers. And I don't think big pitchers are going to want to come to pitch in Camden Yards. It's a little tiny stadium. I think like every year since like 2015, don't quote me on this, but I'm in the ballpark here. It's like gives up the most home runs through every year.
Yep.
It's crazy. And as Oriole fans know, we're usually not part of that number. We're the losing side of that. But when he pushed that back, he said, yeah, I want to attract pitchers to want to come to Camden Yards. So I thought that was a beautiful move. He said that was one of the first things on his list that he wanted to do. And I love it. I think they pushed it back, if I'm not mistaken, like almost 30 feet. And it's almost like, I think it's like 13 or 14 feet high.
They said they added an additional 6 feet in height. I think it was moved it back 26.5 feet. So
yeah. No, I love it. I think that's great. And I think it's funny. A lot of people, oh, I don't know why you did. The people hate change, man. I don't get it. Just calm down. We're talking about a wall. Like on my show, people right now, I was loving it. And people were saying, well, why are you so happy? They butchered a beautiful statue. Like, calm down, guys. But I love it. I love Mike Elias made that move, and I'm happy about that.
Well, I am too. I mean, to me, if you don't advance, if you don't see opportunities to do things differently, I mean, to me, I think it's crazy when you look across the league and you see certain stadiums or certain places that you can hit, and it just seems foolishness sometimes. I mean, you look over, was it right field at Yankee Stadium? It's like, why bother? I mean, just open it up.
I know.
Oh, brother, but it's crazy. So, and of course, if you guys come and visit the Rays, if you hit a ball high enough at there, you can bang it off one of the rails up there.
I get a kick out of the left field wall. I think the Rays have it's like 2 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Or if you hit like a ground ball in the corner, it's it's going to be a double anyway. But
yeah, a guy sitting down can hand you a beer. If you come.
Yeah, right. What's funny? I think that in the Rays stadium they have all those it's kind of like on the third base. At least that's where I see it. All the bar stools and bar seats, and it looks pretty cool. I never see anyone sitting in there. Are they super expensive, or is it just fans don't go?
They sell them in group sales is what last thing I heard. So if you want to sit there, you have to have at least 15, 20 people. And I'm sure it's at a premium price, but I don't know why. There's other nice. I mean, I've worked there before. I used to work in the stands as a fan host. And
okay.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot of nice places there. And the thing is, it's difficult to get fans out, and I've talked with Brandon about this before too. So many people I think now are sitting in the armchair watching the games these days. And
I agree 100%. I think that has a good amount. I mean, there's probably a good list of reasons, but prices and tickets, but yeah. I mean, the TVs and the everyone's got their 80-inch high def TVs now. And that's a huge reason I think of why, people aren't filling up the stadiums as much.
Well, give me a moment here. And I just came to Baltimore and I met up with you and said, Mark, I'm going to take you to a game. What's that experience going to be like as we approach the park? What am I going to see? What's new as a fan that I should be paying attention to?
You mean go visiting Camden Yards?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah. I mean, you want to take a stroll up and down Utah Street. I mean, the food, the atmosphere. I mean, man, you really put me on the spot here. Like I'm a salesman trying to sell you Camden Yards. I mean, it's just, and also they got the, I don't know if you've noticed, the outside of the right field, it's that whole open area. You get to walk around and there's restaurants back there and places to eat and stand and hang out. And there's bars out on there that you can hang out. It's just and then the warehouse it's pretty overwhelming when you're actually there and, you see the warehouse, but I mean, it's just, every time that, when people go for the first time, they always just say, man, it's like just a clean, beautiful, well put together. And then if you're sitting behind home plate, the view that you see out in center field to the city, and it's just a lot going on. But to me, it's just another stadium.
Ooh.
No, I'm kidding. I know, here comes the hate mail, right? No, of course, Camden Yards, my favorite stadium. But yeah, it's quite an experience. People that I hear that when they from out of state and they go visit the Camden Yards are like, this is definitely on my top 5 for sure.
Yeah. They just
had a great time. Yeah.
What food should I do? What food should I get while I'm there?
You gotta go to the I think they have Jimmy's Seafood there. You gotta at least do like a crab cake. You gotta do something seafood with Baltimore. Yeah. And maybe I misunderstood you. Did you say are you in Baltimore now? Or
no. It's just I've got a list of places I want to go, and that's one of them.
For sure. Yeah. No, you gotta do the crab pretzel. You can try the crab pretzel. And I'm sure people from Baltimore tune in, hear me, they're screaming right now, going, why didn't you mention this? Or why didn't you mention that? But yeah, crab cake, crab pretzel. And I'm sure you remember the name Boog Powell, who used to play for the Orioles way back in the day. He's got a barbecue pit right there in front of the warehouse on Utah Street. And yeah, I'd probably be the first one I tell you to go straight to Boog Powell's barbecue. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it can be. But being an Orioles fan, we're trying to keep the fun going, I guess. But there's light at the end of the tunnel.
There's light at the end of the tunnel, indeed. And like I said, I'm looking for it. I expect more this year. I think your team's going to rise up a lot more than people might think. And
yeah, they just took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees.
There you go.
So 2 out of 3 from the Angels. So
that speaks volumes right there, buddy. So it was fun watching Ohtani getting struck out the other night.
Oh, it's great. It's funny. Was it last year or 2 years? It must have been last year. Yeah, a buddy of mine, Ohtani, came into town, and my buddy called me up and he said, "Hey, let's go see Ohtani pitch." And I said, "Yeah, I might want to witness a no-hitter. I've never done that. Sure, let's go see." So we go. We just destroy him. I think he's out by the 4th inning. It's like 7-0. Ohtani strikes out like 4 times in a row. I'm like, this is why we love sports. You just never know
That's right, brother.
Who's going to win, how it's going to happen, who's going to shine. So yeah, the other night, who was pitching against,
was it Zimmerman?
Who was it? I think it was. He struck him out, I think, 2-3 times in a row. Yeah. I'm just like, this is why we love sports, man. You just don't know.
I always want to make sure they shake up some newscaster somewhere. Did you see that? Okay. Because you won't talk about the Orioles else, but did you see that? We got the golden boy, the man who's the generational player, and he is. And you
they'll talk about the Orioles, like anytime we're playing the Yankees, if some little double play happens or a home run, oh boy, you log on Twitter, forget about it. It's holy moly. It's like, all right, we get it. But yeah, I'm excited for the future. It's been even going back in the late 90s. I mean, yeah, the Orioles had 2012, 2016, 2014. Other than that, it's been rough. It's been rough, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. The prospects that are coming up, I like Elias is playing what he has. I like the young kids that he's signing. I think you're going to be all right. I think we're going to be okay.
Well, Nate, I thank you for chronicling all this. And A Season of Hope is one of your episodes. A Season of Hope. I like that title. I encourage people to find. Can't speak. I encourage people to find your podcast, and they can find it anywhere. That's Full Count Chaos. If you want to know anything about the Baltimore Orioles, that's the place to go.
Thank you.
There's a whole lot of history there, and I know you're going to put up some more there. But I'm excited about the season, and I wish you and your Orioles the best, my friend.
Hey, thank you again for having me on the show. I tuned into a couple of years, and I sat there and I said, man, this guy's got it. And then you had me hooked, and before I know it, I'm like, what time is it here? So yeah, keep going, man. I'm digging your show as well. I appreciate it. So it was awesome coming on your show. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Stuff.
Now that we've heard the insights and drama that goes on with the Baltimore Orioles, I was watching some. I think everybody saw that last past week when Trey Mancini was up there at the bat with the Baltimore Orioles and got his way down the first. then suddenly he's out, man. There's this thing, and I know I didn't get the chance to ask Nate about it, but wow, a lot of discussion about what went on with that umpire.
I don't think I saw that.
Mancini hit the ball. He ran to first as he did. I think the pitcher picked up the ball, scampered it over to first, but the pitch was to the first was kind of sloppy, and went over toward the dugout. Mancini had ran just past first, looked over to second, and thought, he didn't actually make a move to run to second. Yeah, there's some question about a call with Mancini. He got on to first, and the umpire was saying, well, maybe he was actually going to turn and go to second. Did he have an intent on, instead of just running past first, think about going over to second? And I can't get inside of the mind of Trey Mancini, and I don't really think necessarily the umpire could, but I think it had to do a lot with the placement of feet, and maybe because Mancini looked over there. But it was in dispute, and there's a lot of things in dispute with the umpires. I don't know if there's more questions about what they're doing early on in the season or not, but it's something that was real and something that questions should have been asked about.
It's another one of those intent to advance arguments that we had a couple years ago, when there's like the simple rule that everybody could follow, where when you cross first base, stay in foul territory. Which,
yeah,
I mean, I learned in like my first year of Little League.
Yeah, and the whole thing with him is they tagged him as out. The first base coach is pointing to Mancini, go back to first, go back to first. And I don't think that helped any. But there's the intent rule, and you got to remember it's judgment, and there's a lot of judgment being rendered out there on the field. Some up behind home plate. Just ask Angel Hernandez.
Oh yeah, plenty of people were asking a lot of questions about him after his performance on primetime Sunday night.
What was that? What was going on? I mean, it wasn't just one event. It looked like he was kind of all over the place.
That's an understatement to me. I mean, looking at scorecards that I think you and I both follow on Twitter.
Yeah,
his accuracy was 88%. And a consistency of 88%, and that was well below the averages of both, which is 94. Oof. And he had some really big missed calls, and his called ball accuracy was pretty good, 94%, and his called strike accuracy was horrible at 77%. So he had a off night, just being nice.
Well, at what point do you take a guy like that and send him back to the minors? I mean, what is acceptable? I don't think it was acceptable to either team. It wasn't like he was calling more for the Brewers or the Phillies. Both of them I think both of them got hit pretty hard. It's just toward the very end, Kyle Schwarber, at a pivotal point in the game, he let his he let his disgust about the whole thing be known to Angel, and he got out there and he got rather vociferously explaining to Angel, where the plate was. And he's calling them high, he's calling them low, he's missing it everywhere. And he's saying, hey, and it's not just for us, it's them too. He's pointing back and forth. You're not just taking these against the Phillies, you're taking against them as well. Well, so Girardi come out and said, you got to be better, guys. I'm going to recommend anybody who wants to find out more about that, go watch John Boy, on YouTube. He's got a very good explanation about how each one of those little scenes went.
Yeah, and he had a pretty big name come to his defense too, as well, that being Angel Hernandez. When Joe West, in an interview yesterday, I believe it was the Maggie and Perloff show, they were interviewing him and they asked him about it. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, of course. You can go listen to the interview yourself. It's on Twitter. And he said that, it wasn't as bad as people think it was. He only really missed 6 pitches. So Joe West, we all know, he never had controversy as an umpire.
No.
So, I mean, he's saying that he did a good job, so he must have done a good job. We just have unreasonable expectations.
Yeah, Brandon. I mean, come on. Joe West, he's going to stand up for Angel Hernandez. And it was obviously a lot more a lot more was missed at the plate than just what Joe thought. It's crazy, too, when you think about Joe out there right now. I mean, he's starting at his own podcast. I think it's called 5,460, the number of games I think that he umpired before he left. All I can think of, it's coming out here in May, and even stranger, you got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I think you probably put Multiverse of Madness with Joe there as well. And then, Stranger Things coming out May 27th. So it seems appropriate month for Joe to come out with his podcast. And Stranger Things. Who could think of anything stranger than Joe coming out with a podcast? Well, maybe not strange. Do you think he'll play any music for us, Brandon?
Maybe he can have his own halftime performance. He has hits like Out at Home. And, I didn't get you his album for Christmas, but, there's always next year or this year, actually, at this point.
For Christmas, I kind of like those Cuban cigars. Actually, there's a lot of good cigars down in Ybor here in Tampa. And usually when they're presented to somebody, they come in a nice humidor to keep them nice and dry. So you can put that on the Christmas list.
Ooh, a humidor for your palatial estate.
That's it, brother. Because I'm living high on the hog here, and humidors now, I found out they're not just for cigars anymore.
Yeah, I always thought humidors were just for cigars because my grandpa, he'd always talk about, hey, I'm going down to the humidor to hang out with my friends. Turns out you use them for baseballs now too.
Yeah. Well, so what's that all about? I mean, between spiner tack and sticky stuff and everything else, with two different kinds of baseballs last year, what are we looking at? One more thing to do with the ball. What is this about? The whole humidor thing.
Well, I mean, it sort of started out about 20 years ago at this point in Colorado because they were having a whole explosion of offense and home runs up there. So they did that to try and sort of deaden the ball a little bit to sort of tamper their advantage that they have, being a mile high. But, that eventually migrated to other stadiums. And now in 2019, actually 10 stadiums had it installed. And now in 2022, it's now mandatory for every stadium to have a humidor. And I don't really know why. We can talk about that in a little bit of why they have the humidors. But in case you don't know, there are different effects that come when you use a humidor. And Dr. Nathan Allen, who's an expert on the physics in baseball, said that as the Rockies and D-backs do, as they use it, it adds weight but decreases the bounciness of the ball. So that means that the ball carries better once it's in the air, but it leaves the bat at a significantly lower exit velocity.
Oh, I don't like that.
No, I don't think they do either. But in humid cities, it has the opposite effect, such as Houston, Miami, St. Louis, where it's closer to sea level. The humidors do the exact opposite, towards more like a wiffle ball. And it's where it's easier to hit it hard, but it doesn't fly as far. So they're complete opposites depending on what your climate is.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of difficult to judge off of just last year what the effects on the humidor is, which this article that I am getting this from was written last year, because that year they also deadened the ball as well.
Right.
So you got to kind of look at it a little bit differently, say how much of that was the humidor and how much was it the dead ball.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, because we had, like I said, two different kinds of balls out there last year. And I don't know that they will be able to have a good measuring mark on this because, we did have 2021 a full season, but two different balls. In 2020, we had a very limited season. I don't know that they're going to have enough information to say what's what until maybe 2, 3, 4 more years from now.
Yeah, we got some information coming in this year that I can give out here. And part of this comes from Chris Towers of CBS Sports Fantasy. And WOBA is for barreled balls that all hitters this season have put in play. And it's basically a version of on-base percentage that accounts for how a player reached base. For instance, a double would be worth more than a single to your WOBA. And this year so far, it is 1.233. And during the StatCast era, it tends to fall between 1.375 and 1.470. So it's well below the range that it's had during StatCast. And in 2021, during the humidors and during the dead ball season, it fell to its lowest level ever at 1.342. And in April of last year, at this point, it was 1.277. So it was still higher than it is at the current moment.
Wow. Well, I don't know, man. It's kind of all beyond me. I'm just going to go back to the cigar room. But what do you think we should be looking for? What do you think teams should expect? and how might that affect who they bring onto the team?
Yeah, it's really affecting offense across the board. I mean, the rate that fly balls turn into home runs this year is 10%. Last year in April, it was 13.3 and 13.6 for the full season.
Gotcha.
And that was from Chris Towers. And some of this below comes from Mike Pietrello on Twitter. The starting pitchers in 21 to 22, the on-base percentage hasn't fallen at the exact moment. Slugging percentage is down 31 points, and OPS is down 31 as well. And that's against starting pitchers. And for relief pitchers, from 21 to 22, the on-base percentage is down 21. Slugging is down 55, and OPS is down 76. So it seems to be having, at this point, a massive effect on the offense.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of decisions they have to make. I said the GMs, if what they're going to do, what less balls going out of the park? Is that what we're going to see?
I mean, we're seeing it now, and there's a whole bunch of things, because I want to know, why did they put in the humidors? Because I mean, I personally have not seen like a straight answer why they did it.
Yep.
I mean, you and I were talking pre-show. Are they doing it for better grip on the ball and, a more consistent grip? But we've had pitchers coming out saying that the grip is always inconsistent from inning to inning. And we just saw 3 Mets players get hit last night, and they're complaining about the grip of the ball. Even guys like Clayton Kershaw are. So there's a hole in that point right there. And then we could say, oh, maybe it's to dampen the home run rate. Yeah, that's great. But that's also going to kill the rest of the offense, because we've talked about before, the game has shifted to, sort of launch angle and exit velocity, where hitters don't train as much to, put the ball in play. It's more about the home runs. So that's really, nothing as good has come from this at this point.
Well, we'll see how it continues on. I'm a little disappointed with some of this. I get it. Yes, it does maybe bring out a better type of play if, your batters have to be smarter about where they place the ball, in the field, if they're not going to get a home run every time they go up there. It's been interesting. I was talking earlier with Nate and talking about some changes, not just to the ball, but the Camden Yard. They made changes as far as pulling 1,000 seats out of Camden Yard and pulling, it was, I think, the left field wall back by about 26, 30 feet, somewhere in that, and raising it 6 feet tall. So there's other things that they can do as well. And with Yankee Stadium, there's some changes they should be making out there in right field, right?
Oh, they'd have to completely rework that stadium to make it, more even. Because, I mean, we always joke about how it's a sandbox and you can basically flick your wrist and you hit a homer at that stadium.
Well, in Yankee Stadium, it's like, come on, guys, give me a break. The fans can't get enough out there in right field, but even elsewhere, there's been a lot of trouble with some of these fans with things going on with attitude. And no, not a Yankees fan. They were throwing more stuff on the field the other day, or cheering on when a player. What was it? Who was it? What was the team came up out there, ran out to one of the walls where they actually have a wire wall, if you will, kind of protecting a video display. Who was that?
It was the Guardians, and I believe the player that climbed up was Miles Straw. I can double check on that.
Yeah. But the thing of it was, so there we are, where they got the Guardians. They're playing out there in Yankee Stadium. Basically, there is a Guardian who got injured running up to the fence wall, if you will. And then upon that, there are fans in that general area, Yankee fans, who begin applauding at this at his injury. Well, I don't know if it was an injury, but at the pain that was causing him from it. And that's just wrong. It's just wrong. And they continued to shout and throw different remarks at him. And one of the Guardians decided that's enough. And, he started talking with them and got back in their face. And he was even to the point where he kind of climbed up that fence where he could talk to them almost face to face. And the language got rude as well.
It was just, mild mannered. How do you do? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it's something about somebody's mother and what position they should be in. And I'm not talking about on the field either. No.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So that being said, it even came to the point, I think, where a couple of Yankees came out there Giancarlo, I believe, and Aaron Judge came out and chided their fans and said, guys, come on, stop it. I don't know. That's kind of bad behavior that doesn't do anything for the game at all.
I don't think you should be yelling at people when they're down. I mean, that's just low to me. That shows really no class at all. That's completely disrespectful. But you had the people in left doing the trash talking, throwing up symbols, and I'm not going to say what they meant. We're a family show, but it's not something you should be calling somebody when you're standing behind two guys. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
And then Miles Straw gets up on the fence saying, "Hit me, mother effer." And fun fact, he's actually from down the road from us. He went to high school down in Manatee County, so sort of a local guy. But unfortunately, justice was not served, and the Yankees won that game, and the fans in right field ended up throwing all the trash on the field. And I believe it actually hit a security guard in the back. So, I mean, that's got to hurt. And I mean, John Sterling said, they're not Yankee fans, they're hooligans.
Exactly.
And, I mean, nobody wants to see that. There's such thing as having passion about your team, but there's also such thing as having, respect for your opponent, the game, the teams, and yourself. But I don't know. I don't understand the point of that. I've never thrown anything on the field or on the ice. That's just,
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's, people get injured, obviously, during a game, and that happens. But to go ahead and applaud that injury, I think, is just insane. And the disrespect of throwing things on the field should never happen. Each one of those fans, they should have cameras in there, find out who they are, not just kick them out of the game, but they should not ever be able to enter that stadium or any other stadium as well. We're getting to that point where they got all this face recognition stuff out there. When you go through a red light, they should be able to do is have face recognition of some of these fans and just put it through all the stadiums. You ever see anybody trying to come in there they think is them, tug them out, man. That's it. They should not be able to enjoy the game. I guess they can still have a cable subscription or MLB TV, but they should not be allowed back into the stadium. And that's just how I feel about it.
I mean, we can just treat people like little kids and say, keep your hands to yourself and don't say nice or don't say mean things. I mean, is that what we have to do at this point?
I think you're on the money. You got to treat them like small children, and they need to be put in timeout for a long time. Yeah.
You put them in the corner.
Put them in the corner, boy. And we're not talking about corner right field. No. Oh, geez. We're talking about some of the negative things that have happened in the games past week, but there's so many great ones. And like I was saying, looking at what happened, didn't touch. No, I want to reflect back on something really good about the Orioles and Nate Andrews. It's interesting. You were talking a couple of weeks ago about, hey, look, the Orioles they won their first 3 games last year, and then they had a tough year. This year they've lost their first 3 games. Maybe that means good things for the future. It's kind of tough to tell. It's still early. Yeah, well, a lot of people say it's still early, especially Cincinnati Reds. I think they're about 3-14 now. I don't know, but the Baltimore team, I mean, they've done well. Look at this. I mean, they were playing was the Yankees, and I think they took 2 out of the 3 games there. So what's been going on? I mean, with the Orioles, they've had some good movement here, haven't they?
Yeah, they've had some good moments, some bad moments, but I mean, they kind of surprised me a little bit. They took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees a couple weeks ago, but then they lost 3 out of 4 to the A's after that. Then they took 2 out of 3 from the Angels, and they won the first game of the series. Or no, excuse me, they lost the first game of the series against the Yankees last night. Yeah. At the time of recording, we're here on a Wednesday at Tabletop Studios. So I'm not expecting them to go out there and be a wild card or an AL East team or win the AL East, but I think they could. I don't think they're going to be in last place like they were last year.
No, I think they've got some positivity. We'll see what comes of it. I know Mike Elias, their GM, is making. Sounds like from Nate that he's making some positive moves. They're going to have to make some changes with pitching, having lost John Means, to Tommy John surgery. But you look at also, like you were talking about the Angels. I mean, some of the things they've done there. Ohtani, man, they kind of delivered to him. I was looking at to see the first game with him. He had 4 at-bats, I believe, 0 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, 0 RBIs. I'm sorry, that's Bruce Zimmerman of the Orioles, and he's pitching to Ohtani. And I believe there's probably a couple other pitchers who did that as well. But damn, I think the second game, Ohtani got on base with a walk after 4 at-bats. He should have looked, Ohtani looked a little better in the third game with the Orioles, but G-Manese, that tells you there's potential, man. There's strength in that team.
Yeah, and they could be a team worth watching. And, they've gone through some really rough times. They had really, I think, only 3 years that I can remember off the top of my head. A few years ago when they had that really good run with, Showalter or Machado. And then most of that, they've mostly been like a backmarker team. And I mean, I think Orioles fans deserve it. And, in a division like the AL East where it's very easy to be a punching bag for so long, that gets old really quick. And when you can beat teams like, the Red Sox and the Yankees after being the punching bag, or really in any sport, it feels so much better and it makes it more fun. And I think Orioles fans deserve that.
I do too. And like I said, I'm hoping this year they'll really get a good shot at it. So I'm hoping that they're not in the basement this year. In this year in the AL East, personally, I'd love to see the Yankees there, then maybe see the Red Sox. Maybe the Orioles move up to above both of them. Then, of course, I think the Rays and of course, Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto Blue Jays are just killing it. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, the Red Sox are in range at the moment. They're only a game or half a game back of the Red Sox. Red Sox 7-11, Orioles 6-11. So who knows? Sunday Night Baseball could be Red Sox Orioles.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it's still early, people. Only 10% of the games of the season have been played at this point. So we will see. Man, I know we talk about baseball all the time here on Baseball Biz. A lot of times it's about the business and what's going on, like with humidors and such. But, you're at Sports Blitz Pod, and you look over the entire spectrum of sports. You and I both have a little bit of guilty pleasures going on. So could you tell me a few of what you've got going on there?
Oh, man. I mean, it's been really an exciting week just staying in the Tampa Bay area. Back-to-back games, Steven Stamkos. I mean, first game, he set the record for most points in team history, passing Marty St. Louis. So, I mean, to me, that locks him into the Hall of Fame, along with his 2 Stanley Cups and 60-goal season. And then last night, he scored his first 100-point season. So, I mean, he's had a heck of a week. And, the Lightning, they've been on fire recently. Their lowest scoring game, I believe they scored 4 goals. I mean, it's 4, 6, and 8. So,
wow,
getting hot at the right time because, the playoffs, I believe they're supposed to start Monday at this point. I don't know the exact schedule, but it sounds like it could be Monday. And you know how much I love the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think that's the greatest playoffs in the world. I'm a little biased because the Lightning have been so good at it. Let's see what else we got. We got the NBA playoffs. They're going on. The Nets got swept, even though a lot of people picked them as to be the champion at the beginning of the year. And they wound up getting swept. So I think that this is like the first time ever that the top 2 favorites of the NBA season have gone out so early or haven't won a playoff game. So that's something, I mean, especially in the NBA where it's so top heavy, that's something that I wasn't expecting to see. We got the NFL draft Thursday night. It's always fun, the first couple rounds. Then it gets kind of boring. And, I'll throw in some racing. Heck, we had a great race at Talladega. It was a ton of fun. A local guy won. He's from down in Fort Myers, Ross Chastain's. He got his second win of the year. That was at Talladega. And this week they're racing at Dover. Always a good race there. Very exciting. So a lot to look forward to this week.
This isn't so much in other sports, but it is a guilty pleasure. And that is Mr. Kevin Kiermaier last Saturday, boy. Here he comes up the 10th inning, and boy, oh boy, he has a walk-off home run that wins the game. But there's a lot of positive things going on in sports. And while we talk about baseball primarily here, we know there's a lot of other good things going out there. And what I've talked about is following also the NCAA softball, the American Professional Association of Baseball. There's a lot of different minor league teams out there. So we encourage you all to enjoy them all. Find what feels good for you and enjoy it, because we here at Baseball Biz do.
That's what the guilty pleasure segment's all about.
That's right. We've got yet another week here on Baseball Biz. We again want to thank Nate Andrews from Full Count Chaos. You find out everything about the Baltimore Orioles there, so check him out. And we've been talking about humidors. We've been talking about Angel Hernandez and Joe West and Stranger Things. So Anything else we should be talking about today?
No, I think we got everything covered for this week.
All right, brother. Well, why don't you go ahead and take us out, my friend?
All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening to us. Remember to like, rate, review, subscribe, and you can find us on pretty much anywhere where you can find podcasts. And you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at SportsBlitzPod, and Mark is at the BaseballBiz. If you have anything nice to say, you can send it to both of us. If you have anything mean to say, you can send it to at the BaseballBiz. That's the complaint department. and please spread the word. Help us out a little bit. And it's a ton of fun doing this. And hopefully we can see you guys again next week.
All right. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll be talking with you again real soon. Special thanks to X-Take RUX for the music to Rocking Forward.